Hello and welcome to Landlord Law Firm TV News. It's Robert Chesson with the Landlord Law Firm. This is our first edition of LLFtv News, and hopefully we will be able to cover some good topics for you. As I mentioned in our introductory video, the purpose of this video is to kind of share some things that are going on around the state that may be important or at least useful information for you to have. And hopefully each month we'll have some new hot topics to cover for you in this video. First hot topic for this video is, you will hopefully notice that unlike our introductory video, we have identified the source of the background noise that was in that video and hopefully eliminated it. So hopefully this is easier to hear and will be much more enjoyable. A couple of things going on around the state. Back in November, in the Waterbury area, a tenant was charged with murder when a marshal arrived to serve eviction papers and found the landlord stabbed and ultimately the tenant covered in blood. That legal case is still pending in terms of the murder charge, but the allegations are that he actually killed his landlord as a result of the landlord's attempt to evict him. And in a quasi-related situation elsewhere in the state, a landlord was charged with animal cruelty after he reportedly, or at least allegedly, shot the tenant's cat. It was reported that the landlord indicated that the tenant didn't pay the pet fee for keeping the animal on the property, and at least the suggestion there was that the basis for shooting the animal was not having paid the pet fee. And in a also sort of related reporting, landlord in the Valley down here in southwest Connecticut was arrested for shutting off the tenant's power, claiming the tenant wasn't paying the rent, and thinking that he could shut off the power to solve that problem. It was reported that the landlord claimed that he told the tenant to leave, believed the tenant had left and shut off the power, but nonetheless he was in fact arrested for shutting off the power. What's the purpose of these three news-related components? Primarily to serve as warnings. As we know, evictions can get very serious and can get very heated. Leave those up to the marshal. If you believe the circumstances warrant bringing in law enforcement, let the marshal know that, so the marshal, as well as the people that come to conduct an eviction, can be protected appropriately in those circumstances. And the other two are self-help challenges. Self-help can get you in a lot of hot water, needless to say, and being arrested is the kind of hot water you don't want to be in. So if you're having issues with lease violations or non-payment of rent or whatever, try not to take matters into your own hands, at least not in the context of eliminating the tenant's pet and or shutting off their electricity. The net result of that, certainly in those two circumstances, was an arrest. And dealing with the tenant is going to be challenging enough. You don't necessarily need to be dealing with the state and the police dealing with an arrest record as well. A different topic of fair housing. A report came out of Montville that there was a housing discrimination case brought on the basis of familial status discrimination. And that case was ultimately settled for $65,000 in favor of the tenant. The claim was that that a family, husband and wife and their 14-year-old child, were looking for an apartment. They were told that this particular landlord did not allow children to live in the apartment, and with the assistance of a tenant advocacy group, the family filed a fair housing discrimination suit with the CHRO, and that suit was ultimately settled in favor of the tenants for $65,000. Also on the fair housing note, in Norwalk. It looks like the Norwalk Fair Housing Officer is looking to expand the office budget by nearly 100%, nearly double the budget from 2015 going into 2016, mainly in order to train 3 new testers for testing for housing discrimination in the Norwalk and surrounding areas. Specifically stating they're looking to root out housing discrimination, things like familial status discrimination, like we saw up in Montville, is what the Norwalk for Housing office is looking to eliminate, and looks like they're going to get money to train people to test. We've talked about testers in articles in the past. For those of you who don't know exactly what that is, it is literally people who are trained to assist or attempt to gain a new apartment, to apply for a new apartment, or at least inquire about a new apartment with no intention of ever moving in, but to see whether or not you are handling the inquiry correctly and not violating any fair housing laws. There are still landlords out there who, for example, when asked about Section 8, claim that they don't take Section 8. That in Connecticut is a source of income discrimination claim, and if you find yourself answering that question, no, we don't take Section 8, the net result of that could be, like we saw in Montville, a rather significant financial settlement in favor of the tenant. That is the news for this edition of LLFtv News. I have one announcement, which we will also include in this video segment as well. In April of 2016, we will be putting on a fair housing seminar sponsored by the Connecticut Apartment Association. If you're not familiar with that association, please reach out to ctaahq.org, where you can check their calendar. You can register for various events, one of which will be a fair housing seminar that we'll be conducting. I believe we'll actually be doing 2, one up in the Hartford area and one down in southern Connecticut somewhere, to be determined. But take a look for that coming up in April, and take a look for our next edition of LLFtv News in February. Again, Happy New Year, and thanks for joining us. Take care.